This video is about lesson 4.6 in our math books. It's called Dividing Fractions and Whole Numbers. We're going to look at how you divide a fraction. You can have a fraction and you can get a fraction of that fraction, which means you would divide that fraction into smaller pieces. We are on page 193 of your book. If you follow along in the blue learn box, you will know what problem I'm doing right now. First, let's go over a few things. Let's say we have a rectangle, and let's say I want to divide it in half. What if I want to I'm going to take my half, I'm going to shade it red. What is half of the half? If I tell you what's half of 1/2, you will probably, in this model, you will shade half of the half. So then you will split this piece into two pieces. Once again, if you split this piece into two pieces, you will split the whole thing. Now if I ask you, what fraction of this model is shaded blue, you will tell me 1/4. In other words, a half of a half is 1/4. And remember, the word of means multiplication. So here, all we did is split our model into into two, and then we split that half into two, and we took that piece, which is the one shaded in blue right now, that represents 1/4. It's one piece out of 4 pieces of the whole model. In other words, we did half times half, and we got 1/4. Another thing we have to go over first is the word reciprocal. I want you guys to know this word reciprocal. Reciprocal basically means reverse. So if I ask you, what's the reverse of 3? What's the reciprocal of 3? Our whole numbers, remember, their denominator in fraction form would actually be 1. So reciprocal would be flipped over. It would be reversed. You would switch the numbers. So the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. What's the reciprocal of 50? 50 is actually 50 over 1. That's what our whole number actually is in reality. The reciprocal of 50 is 1 over 50, 1/50th. What's the reciprocal of 4? It's actually 4 over 1. The reciprocal is 1/4. What's the reciprocal of 1/4? You would tell me it's 4. If I ask you for the reciprocal of a number or a fraction, you're going to switch it up and you're going to tell me the opposite. You're going to switch the numerator and denominator, and that would be your reciprocal. Now the problem in the blue learn box on page 193 says, Mara cuts a rectangular piece of clay in half. She then divides 1/2 into 3 equal parts. What fraction of the whole piece of clay is each of the 3 parts? So she has a rectangular piece of clay, or Play-Doh, let's say. She cuts it in half. Then she cuts each half into 3 equal parts. Each half. So if this is my half, and I cut it into 3 equal parts, I have to cut the other half into 3 equal parts as well. Now, totally, I have 6 parts. It says what fraction of the whole piece of clay is each of the 3 parts. So each part, what fraction is it of the whole piece of clay? And your answer is going to be 1/6. Isn't it one piece out of the 6 pieces? So your answer is 1/6. So if you just draw your model, you would find that out. You would draw a rectangle, you would cut it in half, then you would cut each half into 3 pieces, and then you can answer the question in that way. Now this is method 1. Method 2, we're going to use math. If we have half of the piece of clay, we're going to divide it into 3 pieces. Now we have to know how to divide fractions. We have a half, we don't have the whole piece of clay, and she divides each half into 3, so half divided by 3. Half divided by 3, though, is the same as half times the reciprocal of 3. Now, what's the reciprocal of 3 again? It's 1 over 3. So half divided by 3 is the same as half times 1/3. And now you can just do your regular multiplication. You will get 2 over 6, and you have to simplify that. You will get 1 over 6 as your final answer, which is the same as what we got when we did the model. In other words, each part of the piece of clay that she divided is 1/3 of the half. So each part that she cut from the half is 1/3 of the half. This is 1/3 of this half, right? And remember, the word of, that means we're multiplying. So in other words, you're doing a half times a third, or a third times a half. So remember the rule. Dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of that number. So dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3. Dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by 1/3. Dividing by 10 is the same as multiplying by 1/10. Now please go ahead and do guided learning number 1 on page 194 in your book. It says a roll of wire 3/5 feet long is cut into 6 equal pieces. How long is each piece? So the wire is 3/5 feet long and it's cut into 6 pieces. And it's asking you, how long is each piece? Now try all 3 methods. The first one is with the model. The second one is also kind of using the model, trying to figure out what fractions you're multiplying or dividing. And the third method is using the reciprocal. Now on page 195, the next blue learn box says, a 4/5 pound cantaloupe is cut into 2 equal pieces. What's the weight of each piece of cantaloupe? So we have one cantaloupe, it weighs 4/5 pounds, 4 out of 5 pounds, and it's cut into 2 equal pieces. First step is to draw a model of 1 whole pound, and you're going to make it out of 5 parts because the denominator you're working with is 5, so make it easy for yourself. They give you the fraction of 4/5, keep it 4/5. So, if this is my whole pound, this is how much my cantaloupe weighs, 4 out of 5. And it says it's cut into 2 equal pieces. What's the weight of each piece of cantaloupe? Now my 4/5 is cut into 2. So, naturally, we're going to shade 2 boxes, and then that'll be a half of the 4/5. It's cut into 2, so you're talking about halves here. So this would be one part of the cantaloupe, the blue part, and the red part is going to be another part. Is going to be another part of the cantaloupe, the other half that is cut into. Now your first method is to use a model, like we just drew. The model shows that the weight of each piece of cantaloupe is how many pounds. If this is my whole pound, and each piece of cantaloupe is, what would my fraction be here? It would be 2/5, right? It's 2 boxes shaded out of 5 parts. So using my model, each piece of cantaloupe weighs 2/5 of a pound. Now, let's do the second method. If we have 4/5, let's use regular math. If we have 4/5 and we divide it by 2, which is what we did here when we cut the cantaloupe into 2 halves, into 2 parts, we will get 4/5 times half, because we use the reciprocal of 2, which is half. 2 over 1, the reciprocal for it is 1/2. Here, all we have to do is regular multiplication now. 4 times 1 is 4 over 10. We have to simplify that. We'll get 2/5. Other than the reciprocal of 2 being a half, in other words, what we really did was we simply took 4/5, which is how much the cantaloupe weighed, 4/5 of a pound. We divided it by 2. And if you were dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by half. If you look at your model, the blue shaded, the parts that are shaded blue, the parts that are shaded red, it's cut into half. So that tells us we're dividing by 2. In other words, we're multiplying by half. So our answer is 2/5. Now please do guided learning number 2 on page 195 in your book. It says, find 9/11 divided by 3. You can use model or you can use regular math, the second method that we were doing. Now we're on page 197 of your book. We're going to do the last problem in the blue learn box. We're going to learn how to divide a whole number by a fraction. Laura uses a 1/3 yard of ribbon to decorate a greeting card. How many similar greeting cards can she decorate with 4 yards of ribbon? So she needs 1/3 yard of ribbon for one greeting card, and she has 4 yards. If she has 4 yards and she needs a third to make one card, the question is asking how many greeting cards can she make. So our equation is going to be 4 divided by 1/3. We know that we have 4 yards of ribbon. Each greeting card is going to need a third yard. So we're going to do 4 divided by 1/3. Now here you have to be careful. This is why you have to read the problem correctly and write your equation correctly. 1/3 divided by 4 is not the same as 4 divided by 1/3. So you have to be really careful. So we have 4 yards of ribbon, and we're dividing it into 1/3 yards of ribbon. You can draw models, so you can make 4 yards of ribbon. Each yard is going to be split into 3 pieces, and you know that she needs 1/3 yard out of each one of her 4 yards in order to make one greeting card. Now those 4 made one greeting card. The second 4 can make another greeting card. And the third 4 can make another greeting card. Now using models, how many greeting cards did we just make? You can count how many squares you shaded. And if you count, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She can make 12 greeting cards with 4 yards of ribbon. Now this is how you do it using models. Let's do it using the second method, using math. The other method is it's going to be 4 divided by 1/3. You're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 1/3. Your new equation will become 4 times 3 over 1. In other words, it's just 4 times 3, and we'll get the same answer, which is 12. So dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of that number always. Now at this point we can always go back and check our answer. If we got a final answer of 12, that means we're saying she can make 12 greeting cards out of 1/3 pieces of ribbon. So she needs 12 1/3 yards of ribbon, and she will be able to make as much greeting cards as possible using the 4 yards of ribbon she originally has. Now let's see if that's true. Then our equation will become 12 times 1/3, because we're saying she needs 12 1/3 yard pieces of ribbon. Let's do our multiplication normally. 12 times 1 will give us 12 divided by 3, and our answer will become 4. And this way we can check our answer. And does it match up? Yes, it matches up with the original 4 yards that we had, so we're good. So that's how we know the answer should be 12. Now on that same page, page 197, please go ahead and do guided learning numbers 3 and 4. 3 says to find 3 divided by 1/5. And 4 says to find 7 divided by 1/4.